UNCP kicks off Native American Heritage Month with some memorable events.
And flu season is taking many states in the South by storm.
A Supreme Court case against Camp Lejeune fizzles out before it begins.
Those stories and more coming up on Carolina News Today.
UNCP's chapter of Alpha Pi Omega organized a march across campus to raise awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Participants were encouraged to wear red for the cause. It's part of a national movement that has found the murder rate for women living on reservations is 10 times higher than the national average. Thursday night's march featured Robeson County native Linda Jones, whose daughter was murdered in June. Women and girls are the primary victims of violence and human trafficking among Native Americans, and many who live in cities do so in vulnerable conditions, such as poverty and homelessness, often overlooked or in their cases neglected by law enforcement. The march on campus was co-organized by a gendered society class taught by Dr. Tracy Vargas in the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice.
The new American Indian Heritage Center was formally dedicated last week. A ribbon cutting on the newly remodeled second floor of Old Main was followed by a slate of speeches outside. The center and its programming were established by federal grant money to support Native students as they pursue their education. The university recognized the donors for whom the spaces are named, such as Kurt and Catherine Locklear, who founded Pembroke Hardware. The center's programming is open to all students and employees, but focuses on heritage, culture, and college success.
Today, we celebrate the fact that the creation of this center will continue to transform lives not only locally, but across the state and in the communities of the 30 tribal nations represented among our student body. We celebrate the fact that Native students will have dedicated staff who are here to help students realize their potential, reach their dreams, embrace and be proud of their culture. Finally, we celebrate the commitment to American Indian students and that this center represents the commitment of UNC Pembroke. Our roots in and within the American Indian community will forever be a part of our heritage and always be a characteristic that makes us unique, and I think that's worth celebrating.
The 14th annual Native Foodways event took over the UC Annex on Thursday with samples of home-cooked comfort foods common to the region and ingredients that are indigenous to the Americas. The event was co-sponsored by multiple offices on campus, including the Department of American Indian Studies and the Office for Diversity and Inclusion. It was a potluck that included collards, sweet potatoes, chow chow, bison, and venison. Organizers did request that cooks prepare foods with a low glycemic index, as diabetes is a considerable health concern among North Carolina's Native populations.
In Colorado, efforts are underway to preserve an important part of Lakota culture, the language. The Lakota Sioux are historically known as the warrior horsemen of the northern Great Plains, but their native language is dying, with only a few thousand people still able to speak it. Coletta Bordenlund of KGMH reports on the inspiration behind the annual Lakota Language Weekend at University of Denver.
I'm still here in Wichala.
Learning a language isn't easy.
I'm so excited to be here. And it's so much information, I'm overwhelmed.
And learning this language
Kanta
is helping Deanna Guerra learn more about herself.
I can say a lot, but I can't say it in Lakota yet.
Dua 1950s unheha tumpihe.
Every word, a way to connect to the past.
So much was lost, and just doing my little part to reconnect. When I was a young child, my mother was killed. I lost all connections to my relatives, to my family.
Her journey has led to her Lakota roots.
I know my big smile, who it comes from, and it comes from my Lakota relatives.
It's the essence of our identity.
Alex Firethunder doesn't necessarily see himself as a teacher.
Teaching is just sharing for me. It's just sharing what was shared with me, and it doesn't belong to me.
He's the deputy director of the Lakota Language Consortium. The group says the last generation of first language speakers are now in their 70s, and the language has not been passed down to the next generation since the mid-1950s.
Spiza.
Lakota is one of only 8 Native American languages with more than 5,000 speakers. The goal is to pass it on to even more people.
If we don't do that, the language doesn't survive.
A way to connect the past with the present.
It was so lost, and I just hope I can keep that fire going.
Learning more about a language and how to carry on the tradition for future generations.
I love being Lakota. I love who I am. And I'm a beautiful Indigenous creature.
Nearly half of the U.S. is already experiencing a flu surge this fall. 17 states, including North Carolina, are reporting high or very high respiratory illness activity. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says this flu season is hitting the nation harder and earlier than in previous years. According to the CDC, there have been more than 1.5 million infections and 730 deaths from the flu so far this year. Cases are highest in the South, with the Mid-Atlantic not far behind. Here on campus, a spike in flu cases is usually seen in January, but right now, about 50% of the intake at the Brave Health Center is cases of influenza A. Flu vaccinations are available and free to students and employees, and needless to say, they are encouraged.
The flu vaccine is recommended usually the end of September by the end of October. So we're seeing this influx in flu when maybe most individuals haven't had the opportunity yet to get their flu vaccine. If you haven't, we still encourage it. We'll continue to offer it through flu season at Student Health for both employees and for students. It does take about 2 weeks before it becomes fully protective, so the sooner you get it, the better. In addition to the other respiratory things that we recommend, so if you're feeling unwell, make sure you're keeping your mouth covered, make sure you're washing your hands well, try to limit contact with individuals who might have respiratory symptoms, and definitely see your primary care provider or come and see us at Student Health Services if you're not feeling well. And when it comes to the flu, the sooner that you seek care, the better. We do have some antiviral medications that can be helpful to help you start feeling sooner better than you may have started feeling if you did not have the medication.
UNCP's Military Outreach Office held an honor wreath ceremony yesterday to mark the beginning of what will be a week of Veterans Appreciation. Music students performed the national anthem and taps. Organizers said this was the first of an annual event they plan to hold during the week Veterans Day occurs each November. They emphasized support for veterans making the transition to higher education. The ceremony's guests and participants, including the campus chapter of Student Veterans of America, were treated to a complimentary lunch in the dining hall after the event.
The U.S. Supreme Court has decided not to take up the case of a military widow who claims her husband died from contaminated water at Camp Lejeune. Carol Clendenning says her husband Gary got cancer and died after the government failed to protect him from toxin exposure. Her lawyer argued the government has since admitted through the Department of Veteran Affairs that Clendenning's exposure caused his cancer. Lower courts said the lawsuit is barred by the so-called Ferris Doctrine, by which it's understood members of the military cannot sue the U.S. for negligence, for injuries sustained on active duty, or medical malpractice. This year, President Biden had signed a bill giving Camp Lejeune veterans or their legal representatives the right to file a lawsuit in North Carolina federal courts over toxic water exposure.
Today is Election Day, and control of both chambers of Congress is at stake. That's in addition to dozens of governors' races and other state-level contests that will set the table for the 2024 presidential campaigns. CNN's Karen Kafew looked at the top issue for voters and the top parties' main talking points.
President Joe Biden isn't on the ballot, but for most Americans, it's their first chance to weigh in on his party and policies.
This election isn't a referendum, it's a choice. It's a choice between two fundamentally different visions of America.
Among states taking center stage in the battle for the U.S. Senate, tight races in 4 that President Biden flipped in the 2020 presidential election. Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, where Biden and former President Barack Obama stumped Saturday.
Democracy itself is on the ballot. The stakes are high.
And former President Donald Trump also rallied.
This election is your chance to make your voice heard.
Underscoring how 2022 may foreshadow the 2024 presidential contest. Polls indicate most voters are looking at the economy right now as they cast ballots. Democrats touted Friday's October jobs report and unemployment still near a half-century low as a sign their economic policies are working, while Republicans point to the highest inflation in 40 years.
The inflation crushing our pocketbooks, can't fill up our tank, can't fill up our grocery cart.
Abortion is a human right. Democrats hope the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade in June will motivate voters, especially women, while Republicans have accused Democrats of being weak on crime, especially in major cities. Both parties eager to drive turnout in their favor.
A North Carolina teenager jumps out of a car to escape her Lyft driver.
Stores and travelers are gearing up for the Thanksgiving holiday.
And can you train your brain to better accept changes in your life?
We'll tell you after this message.
Oh man, I can't believe I'm missing this.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Welcome back. I'm Nay McKinnis. In North Carolina, a Raleigh teenager was injured after she jumped from the backseat of a Lyft while the car was moving because of what she called her driver's suspicious behavior. Cindy's Bay of WTVD talked to the 17-year-old about what caused her to make that life-threatening move.
Oh, how many boys flirted with you? He said that right away.
It wasn't long until Isaiah Bowden felt uncomfortable in a Lyft ride home. After 2 minutes of her driver's behavior,
oh, you just look good. I would date you if you weren't so young.
Bowden says the driver then sprayed something that she says made her dizzy and warm.
When I got in his car, it did smell like cigarettes. So when he sprayed one time, it was already like, oh, it no longer smelled like that. But for you to keep spraying it, then roll your windows up, like, I know it's not about me being nervous or anything.
The terrifying experience ultimately causing her to jump out of the moving car.
I was very scared, but then again, I was more so like, I'd rather get out of this car than, you know, fall asleep in a car with this man, and I don't really know.
Bowden fell in the area of 7300 Fox Road, a few miles away from her house.
I just looked down at the ground, I looked behind me, and I just jumped out. And he didn't stop when he noticed the door was open or he heard me crying or anything.
The scars on Bowden's face and body reminding her of the close call, and Lyft removing the driver.
I don't think that's stopping him from anything else. Like, it doesn't really bring peace to me at all. As us young girls or even women, like, we have to be very aware and safe of like our surroundings. Cancel your ride and wait, wait for somebody. Because honestly, I would have waited for my friend if, anything else. But I don't see myself ever riding in another Uber or Lyft. I'm okay with that.
Some people's brains just seemed hardwired against change. It's a real phobia. CNN's Mandy Gaither says there are ways you can train your brain to be better about the new and the different.
Find it hard to quit a bad habit? Struggle to start a new routine? It may be your brain trying to protect you.
Back here is the emotional center of your brain, and that is typically where new change is first processed.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta says the brain often perceives change as a threat. It's not comfortable, and that can lead to loss of control and uncertainty.
We like to think of ourselves as these nimble, flexible creatures, but in fact, we really don't like change.
Gupta says kids are often better with change than adults because they experience it more often. There are things we can do to help us cope better with something different. There's even a formula for change, which says 4 things are needed before change can happen: dissatisfaction with how things are going, a vision of what is possible and tangible, first concrete steps taken toward that vision, and creative leadership to help a person toward it. Gupta says to try and incorporate change into your life on a regular basis.
Get out of your set patterns, whatever it may be. Take up a hobby, do something that's different.
That's how Gupta says we can help our brains to accept change.
Dr. Gupta says trying something different can be as easy as using your non-dominant hand for a day. Just something to break yourself of normal routines.
Top retailers are giving workers a break later this month. Walmart, Target, and Best Buy will close their doors on Thanksgiving. It's a practice many companies started in response to the pandemic. Target's CEO called the move a temporary measure that is now the company's new standard. Gogh, and others also will close on Thanksgiving this year. At the same time, the big retail chains are again starting discounts early this year. Some have already launched promotion and sale events, planning to spread them out across the season. The extended shopping season means stores can close on Thanksgiving without a big impact on sales.
Here's something you won't be thankful for this Thanksgiving. Your turkey might be more expensive and harder to find. In the case of cost, the bird is costing about 73% more now than they did last year. In dollars and cents, the USDA says that comes out to be about $1.99 per pound compared to $1.15 last year. That's inflation for you. It costs farmers more to raise turkeys these days. But when it comes to availability, blame the bird flu. It typically spreads during colder months, but farmers, including some in North Carolina, as we told you last week, have been reporting a large number of cases since July. And that's when producers generally begin breeding for the holiday season. As experts say, there's a chance that suppliers could get more turkeys to the market at the last minute.
The cost of travel is rising as we head into the holiday season as well, but the enrollment cost for TSA prechecks is dropping. TSA prechecks providers is reducing enrollment in-person renewals for $85 to $78. If approved, enrollees get a 5-year membership. With PreCheck, passengers get faster security screenings that allow them to leave on shoes, jackets, and belts. In September, 93% of PreCheck passengers waited less than 5 minutes at airport security checkpoints. According to the Transportation Security Authorities, applicants will get their traveler's number in 3 to 5 days after enrolling.
All right, everybody, it's time to meet a one-eared dog named Van Gogh who has an eye for painting. And get this, he paints with his tongue.
Sure, he can shake.
Huh? Good boy.
But this one-eared dog has better tricks up his sleeve.
How would you describe his artistic style?
Very abstract.
His name is Van Gogh, after the artist who cut off his own ear. Van Gogh the dog was rescued from a North Carolina dog-fighting ring. His ear in such bad shape it had to be amputated, but it sure didn't cut off his career as an artist. Painting his version of that other Van Gogh's Starry Night, the founder of Happily Forever After Rescue in Connecticut places gobs of paint on a canvas, then slides it into a Ziploc bag coated with peanut butter.
So his painting is him licking the peanut butter off, and while he's licking the peanut butter, all the paints, smear around and make the designs.
Voila, the masterpiece! But when Van Gogh had a gallery show to raise money and maybe find him a permanent home, only 2 people showed up. Nevertheless, sympathy and publicity made Van Gogh a doggy art star. He sold 30 works, averaging $40 a piece. But this 7-year-old, 75-pound boxer pit bull mix still needs a home.
He would love someone that will cuddle with him because he's a cuddler.
This artiste might be bored with a ball, but he loves bacon bits.
He's a very go with the flow type of dog.
He's Van Gogh with a flow.
Yes.
Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
Coming up, Braves wrestling gets down to business.
Well, Braves football seems to hit a brick wall.
Also, soccer and cross country celebrate championship victories.
CNT Sports with Donovan Fant is coming up. Stay tuned.
The football program's all-time leading rusher, Travis T.D. Daniels, galloped for 3,356 yards and 32 touchdowns on 571 carries for the Braves from 2008 to 2011, while also hauling in 39 receptions for 474 yards and 1 additional score. A region finalist for the 2011 Harlan Hill Trophy, he earned All-American nods from 3 different organizations following a senior campaign that saw him rack up 1,865 all-purpose yards, including a 1,631-yard, 15-touchdown effort on the ground. That senior year exhibition included a record 247 rushing yards in UNCP's win at Chuan.
It's an honor. It's an honor for me to be able to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's all the hard work that I put in since a kid, since I began playing the sport. has finally paid off. So it's a blessing.
What's up, Brave Nation? I'm Donovan Fant, and I'm back with the sports. On Sunday, Brave Soccer traveled to Brown Summit, North Carolina to battle Greenville University for the Conference Carolinas Championship. After taking down Mount Olive in the semifinals matchup, the Braves were looking to win their second straight conference title. Junior Anna Grossheim pushed the Braves to an early lead in the 11th minute when she netted a laser shot from 45 yards away. Grossheim added another goal in the 47th minute with the victory all but secured in the 72nd minute, when a North Greenville player accidentally headed the ball into their own goal, giving the Braves a 2-goal lead. The Braves managed to hold on to that lead and finish the game with the win, 3-1. Grossheim was named Conference Carolinas Tournament MVP for her performance. After the game, Coach Lars Anderson spoke about the team's determination to win.
Our team showed grit, they showed character, they showed perseverance, and I couldn't be more proud of them. We were 41 seconds away from being eliminated from this tournament and potentially the NCAA tournament. So, I showed the team the last 5 minutes of that game against Emmanuel to show them how positive their body language was, how positive the communication was from the coaching staff, from the bench, and that's what our team is made of. These kids believe, and when you believe, you can make things happen.
On Saturday, Braves cross country was in Spartanburg, South Carolina to compete in the Conference Carolinas Championships. On the men's side, senior Joshua Chepkesir nabbed the first place finish in the 8K with a time of 24:49.2, winning his 5th straight conference title. The Braves had a total of 8 runners finish in the top 50, with 3 finishing in the top 10 to take home the Conference Carolina title as a team. On the women's side, sophomore Jacqueline Cosgy won her 2nd straight conference title in the 6K with a time of 22 minutes and 6 seconds. The ladies had 5 Braves finish in the top 50, with 3 finishing in the top 10, coming in 3rd place overall as a team. Chepkesir and Cosgy both picked up Conference Carolina's Runner of the Year awards. Dr. Peter Ormsby was named the Men's Cross Country Coach of the Year. After the race, Chepkesir and Ormsby shared their emotions about the team victory.
Winning today, especially and winning at the same time with the team, that's really exciting. That's what excited me more today, because I win and then at the same time we win as a team. So I'm really excited.
Dr. Ormsby, you guys come into Conference Carolinas last year. You were very close runners up to Emmanuel last year. Coming in this year, it's you two battling for the title. You guys get it this year. What's it mean for you as a head coach to kind of get that title here and to have Josh do it individually as well?
It's a special group of guys. I think we've been building on this for several years, and we said last night in the team meeting, is like only one of us athlete-wise has a ring, and that's Josh from 2018. So we told the guys if they want a ring, they gotta do good, and they showed up and did what I knew they could do all season. It's just it has to happen on one day. We don't have a regular season to kind of mess around with things. But I'm super proud of the guys, super proud of Josh for 5 straight individual championships, and we still got some other work to do in 2 weeks.
The Braves wrestling team hosted the 41st annual Pembroke Classic on Sunday at home. In a day-long event featuring wrestlers from 9 schools, the Braves had 8 wrestlers with podium finishes. 3 of them claimed first place in their weight classes: Logan Saliga, Jake Picarelli, and Shailik Scriven. 20 Braves claimed victory in at least one match in each event, and 17 claimed multiple victories. The Braves will be back in action Thursday when they travel to Hartsville, South Carolina to take on Coker University in a team event. The Braves had their final road game on Saturday when they traveled to South Euclid, Ohio to take on the Notre Dame Falcons. It wasn't pretty for the Braves as they suffered their 2nd straight loss on the road and were shut out by the Falcons 27-0. Quarterback Josh Jones threw for 174 yards and 3 interceptions in the loss. The Braves have dropped to 5-5 on the season. The guys will have a chance at redemption on Saturday when they host Concord for the Braves' regular season finale on American Heritage Day at Grace P. Johnson Stadium. Remember, the Braves are unbeaten at home this season. In local high school action, Scotland County's Fighting Scots fought a 42-35 win against Fike High School. The number 10 ranked Scots matched up against the number 23 ranked Fike in a winner-go-home game. It was a high-scoring affair with both squads trading blows early. Fike would respond to every Scots score in the first half. The Scots' run game was their main attack, with running back Zay Jones logging 40 carries for 289 yards. The Scots would give themselves a 2-score lead going into the fourth quarter, after quarterback Carter Ravel managed 2 second-half passing touchdowns, both to Cotavious Everett. The Scots were able to hold off Fike's push in the fourth to advance in Sandhills Athletic Conference playoffs. This Friday, the Scots will travel to Fayetteville to match up against number 7th-ranked Terry Sanford High School. UNCP is hosting the Conference Carolinas volleyball tournament this weekend, where the Braves are set to compete in the semifinal round on Saturday. Soccer begins NCAA tournament play Friday against Flagler College, and men's basketball starts the regular season. I'm Don, and I'm gone. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Donovan. That's it for us. I'm Jay Locklear.
And I'm May McInnes. We'll be back next week. See you then.